Hello and welcome to Language, Culture, and Dr. Lou. And if you've seen my videos before, you might know that I like talking about idioms, idiomatic expressions, which of course are expressions that don't translate literally from one language to another. And why not? Because usually there's a metaphor involved. And what I like uh, about these metaphorical expressions that we call idioms, maxims, proverbs, aphorisms, and so on, is that they always give us a little snippet, like show us a little piece of the culture where that idiom originated. And with that in mind, I wanted to talk today about some idioms that I find especially American. So these are expressions in English, and um, and this could be, well, these are expressions that are really useful to know if someone has learned English as a foreign language, and then they come to the United States to study abroad or something. It would be useful to know these expressions so they know what people are saying. And and sometimes that means knowing the rules of certain sports that we play here, certain foods that we eat, or what pets we have. And anyway, so I wanted to talk about some idioms that I find to be especially American because they bring in some pieces of American culture into the mix. And so the first one is a Hail Mary, which I know this is, of course, a Catholic prayer, but that's not exactly what this idiom is about. The idiom is when we talk about if somebody pulled a Hail Mary, um, or somebody completed a Hail Mary, they made a Hail Mary. And a lot of Americans, we're not talking about literally praying. We're talking about a football play, and by football, of course, I mean American football. And this would be like a last-ditch effort. If you're super desperate, time is running out to score any more points, and your team is down by a couple points, and so you really need a touchdown. This would be a time when maybe the Hail Mary comes in. As you can see, this play is um, a very, well, outrageous, and you're kind of hoping for a miracle for it to work. It's unlikely to work, but if it does, huge success and big payoff. And so when we talk about somebody pulling a Hail Mary at work or in life, that means they accomplished the miraculous. And it's all a reference to this football play. Um, and of course, again, by American football, I'm talking uh, about. And one thing about American football that makes it different than soccer, which is what most of the world calls football, um, is that in American football, we do hold on to the ball with our hands and all of this and run around like this play that's shown on the screen, whereas you got the quarterback who's got the ball in his hands and throws it two-thirds of the way down the field to the receiver who's going to grab it in his hands. And so that's very different about American football as compared to soccer. And so that's why it would mostly be in American football where this expression applies when we're talking about somebody drops the ball on something or they dropped the ball. And we mean that basically they didn't follow through and didn't succeed at doing something, at accomplishing a task. And so as in reference to sports with, well, ball sports and specifics. We have this idiom about dropping the ball, and of course this could also apply to, let's say, basketball or baseball. So football is not the only sport this applies to. And so speaking of baseball, we have an idiom in American English. We say to knock it out of the park, or maybe to hit it out of the park. And that's a reference to baseball, which is a very American sport, of course. And that's about hitting a home run in baseball. If the batter hits the ball all the way past the outfield and past the wall at the end, they automatically score a point. And of course, all the other runners on the bases get to also score points. And so big win for their team. And so if we talk about if somebody knocked it out of the park, that means they accomplished something amazing. Like if we want to say, oh, that presentation that Tim did went super well. He really knocked it out of the park. I think everybody enjoyed it and everybody learned something. Uh, so it's a reference to baseball. And why does that picture there say sit here? That's because this was from something advising people where they might want to sit at a baseball game if they want to catch a home run and be able to keep the baseball at home. And so, speaking of baseball metaphors, we also, in baseball and other ball sports, we have an expression, keep your eye on the ball, which we apply to life as an idiom in English. To keep your eye on the ball is sort of, it's to keep focusing on your goal and all the steps it takes to get there and to not lose sight of any of that. And this is, of course, important in sports because, for example, as we can see, this batter there needs to really keep his eye on the ball, keep looking at the ball exactly where it is so he can hit it and uh, hopefully he'll get his own home run out of this. So again, this could be applicable to other sports as well, such as tennis, for instance, or American football, or even soccer. Keeping your eye on the ball, always super important if the sport you're playing involves a ball. But still, we're sticking with baseball, so let's go to another baseball metaphor. And we talk about life can throw you curveballs, or someone can throw you a curveball. This is um to throw a curveball, to be thrown a curveball, is if life throws you a curveball, that's when something really unexpected happens, and you got to be careful to deal with it, and it's tricky to deal with. And this is, of course, a reference to a type of pitch in baseball, a curveball. And as you can see, the trajectory that the ball is taken as it goes across the plate, well, is a little tricky because of the curvature in it, which would make it harder for the batter to hit. So that's why, since curveball in baseball would be a tricky pitch to be able to hit if you're the batter, that's why we made an idiom out of it and say if something throws a curveball, that means they did something unexpected and it's going to be tricky to deal with. And so, another baseball metaphor, we talk about a swing and a miss. If somebody says, oh, that's a swing and a miss, they're referencing, again, batting in baseball. And so if you swing it, the batter swings at the ball and he misses it, that ends up being a strike. So that's a bad thing for the batter because You get too many strikes and you don't get any more turns you don't get any more chances that turn anyway to swing at the ball. And and the expression when we use it, the idiom is talking about when you tried at something, but you failed anyway. And so that's why what we call a swing and a miss. And I brought this up in another idiom video I did talking about a French idiom, faire chou blanc, which comes from faire coup blanc, which is pretty much a swing and a miss. You try to hit it and you don't get it. And so, and why that's idiomatically related to failing at things is because it can have bad consequences eventually, which is what the very last baseball metaphor I'm going to talk about. Don't worry, this is the last one. And this is about exactly what this idiom describes. Three strikes and you're out. If somebody yeah wants to know what that means, they need to know one thing about baseball again. So another American sports reference. And that's because when you're up to bat, each batter has each turn they can only get three strikes before their turn is over, and so they get out, and out is a bad thing because three outs means that team loses their chance to be on offense for that inning anyway, up to bat rather. And so three strikes and you're out. That's pretty much what the official there is hinting at with his is gesturing um that batter is out because already got three strikes. So what that means is that's something that often people might threaten you with if already you have disappointed them twice. They're warning you don't do it again because it's going to be over, whether it's a personal relationship and okay, we're breaking up, or maybe a business relationship and okay, you're fired, or maybe yeah, if we talk about this three strike policy in law, there's something similar, and it pretty much means don't screw it up again because that's going to be it. Um, I am done with you if you do this again. And so it's about, yeah, maybe you can get a second chance, but nobody's committing to give you any third chances or anything. So you might be happy that that was the end of my metaphors, my idioms for football and baseball. So now to something else. We have some idioms in lots of language about animals, and especially animals that we keep for pets and other animals that we've domesticated and live around. And that reminded me of the expression raining cats and dogs, which this one is not unique to American English. Plenty of other English speakers use this expression in other parts of the world. I do believe originally the first version of this expression actually was raining polecats, and that was a reference for centuries ago. The Saudi architecture in London, and when it was raining really hard out, uh, then the guttering type systems and whatnot. Anyway, we'll literally have some polecats come out come out from upper floors in the buildings and fall down. But well, but that has nothing to really do with our life in the US. So why would Americans really care about Saudi architecture in London, England several centuries ago? Um, So why does this idiom still persist? Raining cats and dogs, probably because these are two of America's favorite animals to have it as pets around the house. So I'm sure that's why this idiom helps persist. And of course, what this expression means is it's raining violently. It's raining very heavily. Uh, and so what that brings in mind to me is also you have another idiom. If we say people are fighting like cats and dogs, like they really don't get along at all, they're really fighting back and forth, and we call that fighting like cats and dogs. And that also, I think, has to do with us having lived around many of cats and dogs, and it's ugly to watch a cat and a dog get into a fight, and often bloody. But anyway, so I like this expression because it gives a funny image to mind of dogs and cats falling down to this down from the sky. But um, yeah, but I wanted to include it here, even though it's not uniquely American as far as idioms go. I can see why this one stuck around a lot longer than the other term we used to say, it's raining pitchforks. Um, this one, raining cats and dogs, stuck around a lot longer, and I suspect because we live around so many cats and dogs and whatnot. And so, sadly enough, I have two more. Um, I have only two animal uh idioms, and the first was raining cats and dogs. And speaking of what animals we have in pet as pets, cats, of course, there's an idiom of to let the cat out of the bag. And of course, metaphorically, right? With this expression, that cat is a secret that's supposed to remain undisclosed. It's supposed to be kept a secret. And so if someone lets the cat out of the bag, what they're doing is they're spilling a secret. They're letting you loose a secret, and so taking something that was supposed to be disclosed, that was supposed to be undisclosed, and they're disclosing it. So taking a secret and making it public. And I love the idea of letting a cat out of the bag. To do that because yeah, if that cat springs out of somebody's bag, somebody will be surprised about it, so a big secret. But yeah, so that's it for the animal idioms, and only two more sports related idioms to go, I promise, and they both have to do with boxing. Of course, boxing is a popular sport here in the USA. And when we talk about somebody hitting below the belt, um, we're talking about somebody insulting you unnecessarily, and and it's a reference to boxing. And this picture shows exactly why hitting below the belt is not allowed in boxing. Um, It's against the rules, and yeah, I'm not gonna say anything more about it. I think the picture says all you need to know about why you don't hit below the belt. And so it would be unsportsmanlike conduct. And so that's why idiomatically the way we use it is if somebody's being especially insulting or rude, and they're chastising about something unnecessarily and often irrelevant to it. It's all out of bounds. It's all unfair and so not cool. So that's hitting below the belt. It's really reference to unsportsmanlike conduct. Um, and if you know the sport of boxing, you can understand why the idiom applies pretty obviously. So the very last sports metaphor at all is having to do with boxing, and that's when we talk about to throw in the towel. And of course, that means to give up, to just quit, to give up, to decide I'm finished. Um, like you can see the guy in the suit who's obviously just finished. He's given up. And that this sort of makes life A metaphor, well, we're sort of saying life is like a boxing match, like you're fighting in a boxing ring. And so what throwing in a towel is in boxing is if one boxer's trainer throws in the towel, that means his side is giving up. And so this is why for foreigners who might come to the US and want to learn the lingo and the language, why sometimes it can be important to know the rules and the norms of sports that we like. So I promise that's the last sports metaphor. Now I have some idioms having to do with foods that are pretty commonly eaten, and these expressions are commonly used here in the US, starting with to spill the beans. Now, this one, uh, as you can see, of course, in the little cartoon picture, is sort of illustrating what spilling the beans means, both literally and metaphorically. Spilling the beans, it's kind of like letting the cat out of the bag. It's you spilled a secret, you let loose a secret. But spilling the beans, the spilling thing, this pretty means it's you accidentally told a secret. Like, so letting the cat out of the bag, and my usage of it is often on purpose. Uh, though could be accidental, but often on purpose, whereas spilling the beans is either accidental or somebody's playing it off as if it were accidental. Anyway, and so that's what spilling the beans is all about, is telling a secret that you shouldn't have told. You're letting information loose into into the public or to other people who were not supposed to know it in the first place. So that's what spilling the beans is all about. And of course, I included a picture of Campbell's baked beans because baked beans like that, there's plenty parts of the US that are known for this, especially Boston, Massachusetts comes to mind when we think of baked beans. And now we've got bring home the bacon, which of course, we're not talking about what we see in the one picture with a giant slab of bacon, literally bringing it home. That to me is funny because what a gross image, because bacon is so slimy and all that when it's raw. But anyway, um, and what we're talking about when we're talking about bringing home the bacon is earning money and providing for your household. Well, maybe for yourself if you live alone, or maybe other members of the family if you live in a multiple person household. And anyway, so a lot of this goes back to money. And of course, that's always money is a big part of American culture. We're a very capitalist society, very consumerist culture, consumerist society. And so we have plenty of idioms where we call money by other terms. And I think this is part of it. But it's not just money. It's also, about providing sustenance for the household and all that. So it could, bringing home the bacon might, in a small percentage of the cases, actually be literally bringing home bacon for food to feed everybody. But mostly we're talking about moolah and providing for the household. And now here's something that's very different, because bringing home the bacon is not always so easy. You got to work for that, right? You got to earn a salary or work hard in other ways to bring home the bacon. Whereas when we talk about a piece of cake, that's the opposite. If something is super easy, or if something was super easy, we call it a piece of cake. Like, for instance, if somebody asks, oh, how did your test go yesterday? I know you were worried about it. And they reply, "Oh, it was a piece of cake. I finished it in only 20 minutes. I'm expecting a really good grade." That's piece of cake. It's when something is super easy. And so, yeah, if a test was a piece of cake, you're gonna ace it or you're gonna pass it with flying colors. And now that's quite a different metaphor when we talk about a piece of the pie. Now, of course, we Americans, we like our cake and we like our pie too. But the metaphor is here is different because a piece of cake is something super easy, whereas a piece of the pie, we're often using this idiom in terms of business things and things related to well, capital gain or even gains of any sort, where let's say a business has certain amount of profits all to go around and it's a very small business only with, you know, three people involved in running it. If one of them wants their piece of the pie, what they want is to have their fair share of the proceeds of the profits from all of this. So that's what we mean by a piece of the pie. It's we're figuring as the whole of all the profits is one pie and each person's share as a piece. And that's very different metaphor than when we said a piece of cake, which was something super easy. This one is um about each person getting what they're due, getting their share, getting their fair amount. And so speaking of pie, the very last food idiom that I have, which I find particularly American, is of course calling something as American as apple pie. Um, and that's of course when we find something that's super American or somebody who is super American, we can call them as American as apple pie. Because again, apple pie tells you a little bit about the culture and one of the desserts that we like to eat. And did you notice we have several idioms about desserts, and these are only a couple of them. But anyway, I do like these idioms because they show us little pieces, little parts of the culture of the people who use this idiom, and all these are found to be pretty American and revealing little itty bits of American culture each at a time. So I hope you did enjoy the video, and please do give this a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do that as well. And I will start working on my next video very, very soon. So thank you as always to everybody who watches until the very end. I very much appreciate that every single time. And so I will catch you around next time, and I'll see you soon.